Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be reviewing the San Martin SN006-G Milsub. This watch is available from watchdives.com for $249. You can use the discount code WF4K to get $10 discount off any watch over $150 on watchdives.com. So the Milsub version of the SN006-G is available in two colour options, black and blue respectively. There are some notable differences between the two versions. The black version has printed indices, the blue version has applied indices, and the black version has a white printed hex, and the blue version has a silver applied hex, as you can see. The other notable difference is the black version uses C3 patina superluminova, the blue version uses BGW9 superluminova respectively. So the thing to note is the black version's C3 patina lume glows green in the dark, and the blue version's BGW9 glows blue in the dark respectively. Other than that, the two versions are identical in specification. So firstly, let's look at the box that the watch comes in, and then I'll talk you through the other items one gets with the piece. So the watch comes in this black plastic Pelican style case. I'll show you the interior. As you can see, both halves of the Pelican's case are lined with two foam panels, which does a good job of protecting the watch in shipping from any damage. I like these Pelican cases. They make a refreshing change from using the default option of a cardboard watch box. They're very durable and practical. With regards to the items, this is the owner's instruction manual, clear concise diagrams. The instructions are in English, and it details the operation of the movement used, which is the Epson caliber YN55A automatic. This is the warranty card, and on the reverse, as you can see, Watch Dives have filled in the date of purchase, reference number, and it's also stamped by San Martin. Usually San Martin watches are covered by a 2-year international warranty, which is very good, but if you're buying a watch from watchdives.com, they cover the watch with a 3-year international warranty, so one is getting an additional 12 months of warranty cover, which is very good. One also gets this plastic vial which contains blue thread locker. Now, I've reviewed over 350 watches on my channel, and San Martin is the only brand that I've seen do this, and they deserve full credit for this, including thread lock with the piece. So this is used for when one resizes the bracelet, and one dips the thread of the screw pin into the thread locker before screwing it into the bracelet link, and that prevents the bracelet screw pin unscrewing. So it's very good to get the thread locker included if you don't have any. One also gets this spring bar tool, stainless steel nailed shank, 2-prong fork at one end, and a push pin at the other end. Very good quality spring bar tool. And lastly, one also gets this stainless steel 1.6mm flathead screwdriver. As you can see, the 1.6mm flathead is the correct size for resizing the screw pins in the bracelet. The quality of the knurling is done very well, and it's solid stainless steel rather than being plated, so good quality screwdriver included. So, with regards to the specifications of the piece, this is the San Martin SN006-G Milsub. We have a 40mm case diameter, we have a 49mm lug-to-lug measurement, a thickness of 13mm, and a lug width of 20mm. The oyster-style bracelet tapers from 20mm at the lugs down to 16mm at the 2-button push clasp. As you can see, the 2-button push clasp is signed with an embossed San Martin hex logo, which is finished to a good standard. Flawless mirror polishing to the large bevel, which is machined on the edges of the clasp. As you can see, beautiful luster to the brush satin finishing to the 316L grade stainless steel on the exterior of the body, and that also complements the brush satin finishing to the flanks. San Martin deserve credit because I'm often critical in my reviews of brands only having 2 or 3 micro adjustment holes. They've made the correct decision by having 4 micro adjustment holes. Good foam resistance to the 2-button push triggers, solid mill 316L grade stainless steel interior, beautiful luster to the brush satin finishing, no sharp edges, no burrs and no sharp corners to it. The hinge pins are a good tight fit, and it snaps shut with a nice positive click. So this is an example to other brands of how to get the finishing and the build quality and quality control of a clasp correct. This is one of the best 2-button push clasps I've seen. The quality of the finishing is mid-tier level, and bear in mind this is $249. It's an exceptional clasp. I really like the large mirror polished bevels to the edge, as you can see, and there aren't any sharp corners to it and no sharp undercuts to the flank, so it's a very well executed and very well finished 2-button push clasp. With regards to the rest of the specification, we have a double dome sapphire crystal with clear AR coating on the underside, and the clear anti-reflective coating does an outstanding job of reducing the glare and the highly reflective nature of the silver mirror polished applied indices and the silver mirror polished Milsub hands. The hands are correctly proportioned, and again, San Martin deserve credit for this. It's often the case with Chinese low-tier watches that they have undersized hands. They're underproportioned in thickness and also the length. But if you look closely at the pencil minute hand, you can see the tip, the arrowhead tip to the pencil minute hand extends all the way to the white minute ticks on the chapter ring. And the silver mirror polished Milsub hour hand is also correctly sized. The second hand also extends to the minute tick, so the arrowhead is the right proportion and also the right length, and I really like they've got the proportions of the hands correct. Now, it's subjective with regards to the silver applied shield emblem. As you can see, the silver hex. Personally, I think it would look better if they'd used a white printed hex as per the SN006-G Milsub, but I also like the silver applied hex. Some collectors will dislike it, some collectors will like it. I think it looks good, but I would have personally preferred a white printed hex as per the black version. They've made the correct decision on the blue dial version of using applied indices and using printed C3 patina lume indices on the black dial version, which looks like an homage to the 5517 and 5513 Milsub. The text is just right. I like that it's just got automatic, and then we have the water resistance rating, 660 feet equals 200 meters at the 6 o'clock position, just the right amount of information. It's not over branded with unnecessary text or specification. The dial looks very well balanced. The proportion of the indices are very good. They're smaller than Rolex maxi dial indices, but they do look good for this, which is meant to be an homage to the Rolex 5517 Milsub. So the proportion of the applied indices is very good, and I like the mirror polishing. It complements the mirror polishing to the Milsub hands. With regards to the dial, I think it could be further enhanced if they used a glossy blue enamel dial. This has a matte blue dial, and I think with a glossy finish to the ceramic bezel, a glossy blue enamel dial would better match the glossy finish to the bezel insert. But on a positive note, they've done a good job with the colour match. I really like the blue tone of the dial. It perfectly matches the blue tone of the ceramic bezel insert. The white minute ticks and the hour marks and also the Arabic numerals are engraved to a high standard and also infilled with white paint to a very good standard. So they've done a very good job with the execution of the Milsub bezel. And I like the lume pip also, which is BGW9 Superluminova. So the bezel looks very aesthetically pleasing. Now, with regards to the bezel finishing, this is one of the best San Martin bezels they've ever made. The quality of the finishing to the scallops on the teeth is perfection personified. No sharp points. Now, this is something they get better done on the SN006-G, the scalloped bezel. I've previously reviewed the SN004-G Milsub, and that uses a coin edge bezel. Now, the negative of the coin edge bezel is it does have sharp points to the teeth, so there's room for improvement on the finishing of the 004 bezel. But with this scalloped teeth bezel on the 006, we don't have those sharp points, but it is very grippy and tactile, and the quality of the brushed satin finishing and the mirror polishing to the scallops is done to a very high level. So I think this is the best quality bezel they have ever made. With regards to the case finishing, it is perfection personified. Brushed satin finish to the tops of the lugs is done to a very high standard. I love the large mirror polished bevels, which mark the transition between the tops of the lugs and the mirror polished flanks. They've made the correct decision by using drilled holes in the flanks, as you can see. It gives the piece a vintage aesthetic as per 5513 or 5517 Milsub, because it does have that classic Submariner date style case. It does look like a 16610 case with the holes in the lugs, because of course the 5513 and 5517 used fixed spring bars which were welded into the case, but by having holes in the lugs it means it's easy to remove the bracelet to fit a strap, because one doesn't have to engage a spring bar tool in the solid end links. One can simply depress the spring bars through the holes in the flanks. Flawless mirror polishing to the flanks. Absolutely gorgeous finishing. No sharp edge to the undercut to the flank, and we don't have any sharp corners to the ends of the lugs or any sharp tips, so it really is very well finished. Female pivoted end links are the correct decision. Now, they could have used male end links, but this does have a relatively long lug to lug measurement of 49mm. 48 lug to lug is the perfect sweet spot, so it's 1mm too long, and therefore they've made the correct decision by using female pivoted end links. Excellent articulation, they're perfectly smooth, but they're a nice tight fit to the head of the piece. The profile of the solid end links perfectly matches the profile to the curved tips of the lugs. Feels very similar to a Tudor Black Bay 58 in terms of the smoothness of the articulation, and the benefit of the female pivoted end links is it allows the end link in the bracelet to move underneath the tips of the lugs, as you can see, so one doesn't get an abhorrent gap underneath the lugs. The bracelet is finished to a very high standard, beautiful lustre to the 316L grade stainless steel. The brushed satin finishing is mid-tier level, and bear in mind this is $249 US. It really is exceptional to get this quality of brushed satin finishing. It really is Tudor Black Bay 58 level. The brushed satin finishing to the top side and underside contrasts with the flawless mirror polishing to the flanks, and they've made the correct decision by using 1.6mm flathead screw pins rather than using push pins, which would have been a cost-cutting measure. With regards to the case back, it's solid 316L grade stainless steel, concentric CNC lathe tool machining, coin edge finish to it. It looks very similar to a Black Bay 58 screw down case back. 200 meters is perfectly acceptable for the hermetic seal. Beautiful concentric CNC lathe tool machining. I love the way it refracts the light. Now, it's a relatively low profile case back, although it is a bubble back case back. The quality of the finishing is excellent, no sharp tips to the coin edge finishing to the teeth, and it sits very smooth and comfortable against the wrist, so it's a very comfortable bubble back case back. The female pivoted end links are a good tight fit to the case, they're very well finished, and the underside to the head of the piece is also very good, no sharp edges to the undercut to the flanks of the case. So I'll give you a wrist shot. Now, I haven't sized the bracelet, I've simply taken the watch out of the Pelican style case, and as you can see it will fit up to a maximum 8-inch wrist. I can just fit my index finger underneath the bracelet and clasp, although it is a snug fit. Personally, I prefer to see an extra link added, and that would give me the looser fit that I prefer, but this will fit up to an 8-inch wrist, and that is with the position 4, the maximum extension on the 2-button push clasp in the micro adjustments. The proportion of the oyster style bracelet is correct. 20mm tapering down to 16 is the correct taper for a 40mm head of the piece. The only thing to note is it does have a relatively long lug to lug measurement of 49. I think San Martin should have reduced the lug to lug measurement to the perfect 48mm sweet spot, but 49 is acceptable if you have a larger 7 to 8 inch wrist. If you have a smaller 6 to 7 inch wrist, you may find the 49mm lug to lug to be slightly too long, and that's something to note. But as you can see, because it has female pivoted end links, it allows the end link in the oyster style bracelet to articulate very well, and it pulls snugly down to the wrist, so one doesn't get the abhorrent gap that one gets with a a Steinhardt Ocean 139, for example, which has straight flat lugs. So the fit on my 8-inch wrist is excellent. It feels very well balanced. It's 152 grams with all the links in the oyster style bracelet, and as you'll know from my previous reviews, for a 40mm head of the piece on a oyster style bracelet, circa 150 grams is the perfect weight. It gives a nice feeling of heft and quality on wrist, but it doesn't feel top heavy and unbalanced. This does feel very well balanced on the 20 to 16 oyster style bracelet, and I love the large taper on the lugs, which is very slender, and also the large mirror polished bevels. It really does look like a 16610 Submariner date case, and also a 5513 or 5517 Milsub case, and I think the case is just one of the greatest San Martin cases ever made. I think this is a better looking case and better proportion than the SN006-G. If you have a 6 to 7 inch wrist, the 004 gives a better fit because it has a shorter lug to lug measurement, and it is 38mm with a 39mm bezel. But if you have a larger 7 to 8 inch wrist, the 006 case fits better than the 004. Now, I've owned and reviewed both the 004 Milsub and also this 006. With the crown guards on the 006, it does wear more like a 40mm, and also it does a better job of being an homage to the Rolex Milsub. And this is something I disliked about the 004 Milsub I previously reviewed, the absence of the crown guards. I think the 006 case is a better option. So very comfortable to wear for long periods of time, such as 8 to 12 hours per day. 152 grams is nicely balanced, and I like the comfort level. And I also think that the proportions are excellent, although I would prefer if it had a 48mm lug to lug measurement. 13mm is a good thickness, bearing in mind it has a domed top hat style crystal. It's boxed, as you can see, and I think 13mm is the perfect thickness because it will easily slip underneath a shirt cuff if you wear business shirts. So let's test the bezel execution. Now, it's a curiosity of this 006 is that San Martin have changed from using 120 click unidirectional bezels to 90 click. They did the same thing with the 004 Milsub. They've changed on the 004. They previously used 120 clicks. They now use 90 clicks on all the 004s. They've done the same thing on this 006. I personally would prefer 60 clicks or alternatively 120. 60 gives heavier clicks, 120 gives smoother clicks, but 90 is in between the two, and I personally dislike it, but let's test the action. Nice loud audible clicks. The 90 clicks feel smooth all the way through the 360 degrees. They feel even in terms of resistance. I like the loud audible clicks. No lateral side-side play. No back play whatsoever, so it is a firm resistance to it. Now, it's lighter than a Steinhardt Ocean 139. It feels very similar in terms of resistance to a Seiko 5KX. That's the kind of Seiko bezel action we're feeling. It's not too heavy and it's not too light. It's medium firm resistance, which I like. Let's just check the alignment. Perfect. So the Lum Pippin triangle perfectly aligned with the 12 o'clock triangle, applied index on the dial and also the white minute ticks. So 10 out of 10 bezel execution, no lateral side-side play, no back play, perfect alignment. I would just prefer had they used 120 clicks rather than 90 clicks, which is an odd choice. So let's test the screw down crown execution. Coin edge finished, embossed with the San Martin hex, mirror polished to a good finish. Let's test the execution. Absolutely silky smooth. This is 10 out of 10 screw down crown execution. The screw down crown provides an effective hermetic seal to 200 meters, which is perfectly acceptable. It feels very smooth. This is one of the best screw down crown executions San Martin has made. So, in the first position, one can manually wind the Epson caliber YN55A automatic to top it up to its maximum 40-hour power reserve. This is something I really like about the YN55A. It feels smoother to manually wind than the PT5000, and I actually prefer the reliability of the YN55A versus the PT5000. In terms of smoothness of manual winding, it feels exactly the same as a Seiko NH38 and the Seiko NH35A. There's no discernible difference. The architecture of both movements is actually very similar. So I like the manual winding of the YN55A. The negative is it does have a phantom date setting position. Pulling it out to the first click position is the date complication setting position. So rotating the crown clockwise, one can feel the date wheel is present beneath the dial. One can feel the quick set complication of the date clicking over, and that's something to note. I personally would prefer if San Martin used the NH38, which doesn't have a date complication. It's the no date version of the 35A, because that would delete the phantom date setting position, and that would delete the one click, the first click position of the crown. So one can feel the date wheel on the YN55A clicking over. Pulling it out to the second click position hacks the movement. If you look at the arrowhead second hand, you can see it's now stopped dead. So it's possible to set the time precisely to the second with the YN55A. It feels silky smooth clockwise and anti-clockwise. There's no discernible difference between the 35A and the 55A. They feel exactly the same. San Martin have done a very good job of making a video where they break down both movements and they compare both the 55A and the 35A on a time grapher, and they detailed that the architecture of both movements is actually very similar. The main difference between the 35A and the 55A respectively is the 35A has 24 joules, the 55A has 22 joules, but other than that the architecture is very similar. So very similar feeling when setting the time, very light resistance to the gearing, it doesn't have any friction, and it feels smoother than lower grade Miyota calibers such as the 8215. So I think the correct choice is the 55A, and I don't mind if a San Martin watch uses the 35A or the 55A respectively, they are equal quality. No back play, clockwise and anti-clockwise. There's an immediate response when one rotates the crown, and this is something I dislike about Miyota movements such as the 8215. There is back play, clockwise and anti-clockwise. One has to take up the slack. But with the 55A, there's an immediate response. The minute hand immediately moves when one rotates the crown clockwise and anti-clockwise. Pushing it back in, it's got a nice positive click, and that restarts the movement. So let's test screwing it back down. Immediate thread pickup. There is a perfect interface between the internal thread of the coin edge crown and the external thread of the stainless steel crown tube. Now again, this is something I prefer about the 55A. it's easier to push back in the winding stem into the movement and screw down the crown. With a PT5000, one has to really force the winding stem back into the movement. There's a lot of spring-loaded resistance with the PT5000, and it can be more difficult to engage the internal thread with the external thread of the crown tube. But on the YN55A, it's lighter resistance. It feels exactly the same as the 35A. One can easily push back in the winding stem and immediately the thread picks up. So it's smoother to manually wind, and also it's easier to screw down the screw-down crown with the 55A. So I like that this has the 55A versus the PT5000. Right, so let's do a loom test, and we'll see how the loom performs when it's charged up to the absolute maximum. So as always, I'm going to use my 100 UV LED torch to charge it up to the absolute peak. Now, as I've detailed, the thing to note is the black version uses printed indices, the blue version uses applied indices, and the black version has C3 patina loom, which glows green. This blue version uses BGW9 Super Luminova, which glows blue. Right, so that's now fully charged, and as you can see, it has not disappointed. We're clearly looking at 5 to 6 layers of BGW9. There's no discernible difference between the quality of the BGW9 that San Martin are using to Tudor loom used on the Black Bay 58 and also Rolex Chromelight loom. That is the quality of BGW9 we're looking at. Perfect blue colour tone match between the loom pip on the ceramic bezel inserts, the applied indices and the Milsub hands. So 5 to 6 layers on the applied indices and 5 to 6 layers on the Milsub sword hands, as you can see. I like the proportions of the applied indices, and I like that they haven't used the cost-cutting measure of 2 to 3 layers. This is clearly 5 to 6. So it's glowing incredibly brightly. In terms of brightness, I would regard it as equal to Seiko Lumibright, which is outstanding. Alternatively, Tudor Super Luminova and Rolex Chromelight, which is the very best of BGW9 Super Luminova. The Chromelight glows in a very similar blue tone. Outstanding. It will glow for a good length of time, and as you can see, the brightness is outstanding. There is no room for improvement with this, and it's an example to other Chinese brands of how to get it correct, because this is $249 US, and to get this level of BGW9 Super Luminova at this price point is outstanding. So I really like the blue tone of it. Now, I think they've made the correct decision with the black version by using C3 because it glows green, and of course it's meant to be an homage to the 5517 Milsub, which used tritium, and that glowed green. And with the C3 patina loom, I like it glowing green on the black dial version, but for this blue dial version, I think they've made the correct decision by using the applied indices and using BGW9. The blue loom of BGW9 really does work well with the blue dial and blue bezel. So as you can see, it's not fading whatsoever. It's still glowing very brightly, and it will continue to glow for a good length of time. This is 10 out of 10 BGW9 Super Luminova performance. Right, so let's discuss the movement use, because it's one of my favourite aspects of the piece. You'll all be familiar with the Epson Caliber YN55A Automatic. So the YN55A is made in Japan. It's a reliable, well-proven workhorse movement. It's the same as the Orient Caliber F6922, which is used in a plethora of Orient watches, including the Kamasu. So the F6922 is well proven in the Kamasu. It's reliable, accurate, the build quality is good, and the materials is good, and also the quality control. So the YN55A is branded as Epson, and the Orient version of it, the F6922, is branded by Orient, but they are both made by Epson. Now, in terms of the architecture of both movements, as I've detailed, the YN55A has a similar architecture to the NH35A. The only discernible difference is the 35A has 24 joules, the 55A has 22 joules respectively. But the reliability of the 55A is the same as the 35A, and I have no reservations with regards to the build quality and reliability of it. It runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour and a frequency of 3 Hz. The stated accuracy of the 55A is minus 25 to plus 35 seconds per day, so I'll put that into perspective. The NH35A has a stated accuracy of minus 20 to plus 40. The YN55A has a stated accuracy of minus 25 to plus 35, so the accuracy is very similar. Now, on a positive note, San Martin are well regulating the 55As they're using. This one is running consistently at plus 5 seconds per day, which is excellent accuracy and perfectly acceptable for a YN55A. 40-hour power reserve is perfectly acceptable, and it has hand winding and hacking. It does feel smoother to manually wind than the PT5000, and the thing I like about it is the YN55A is definitely more reliable than the PT5000, so I think that they've made the correct choice. But however, the only negative to the 55A is the phantom date setting position. As I've detailed, there is the first click position on the crown, and one can feel the quick set complication clicking over. Now, this is subjective. Some collectors dislike a phantom date setting position. I think that they should have used the NH38 because that would have deleted the extra click on the crown, the phantom date setting position. But the 55A is good. It's reliable, it's accurate, plus 5 seconds per day is good, 40 hours power reserve is enough. And I like the fact it has hacking. So it really doesn't matter if a San Martin watch has the NH35A or the YN55A. They are equal in quality control, build quality, materials and accuracy. So YN55A is a good choice and I really like it. So last I'll summarise the piece. What do I think of it overall? Well, when I'm considering reviewing a watch for my channel, the watch meet 2 criteria. It should be both excellent quality and excellent value at the respective price point. So this is $249 on watchdives.com. One can use the discount code WR4K to reduce the price by $10 down to $239. So at $239, this is unquestionably excellent quality and unquestionably excellent value. I'm going to declare it a champagne watch for lemonade money. There is only one negative to this piece, and that is the use of the 90-click bezel. I would prefer if San Martin used either a 60-click unidirectional bezel, or alternatively a 120-click unidirectional bezel. It's a curiosity why they changed from using 120 clicks on the 004 and the 006 respectively to using a 90-click bezel. Other than that, this is the perfect piece. No negatives to it whatsoever other than the 90-click bezel. The build quality, quality control, finishing are all outstanding. The performance of the BGW9 Superluminova is also outstanding. Some of the best quality Superluminova I've seen. And certainly at this price point, $249, the BGW9 is 10 out of 10. So I'm going to highly recommend it to you for consideration. I like this watch so much, I've decided to add it to my own personal collection, and that really is the highest compliment I can pay a watch. So I hope you've enjoyed my review of the San Martin SN006-G Milsub. Please feel free to post your own comments below the video. Thank you very much.